Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the New England Racing Show, Manchester, New Hampshire, Channel 23, and also on YouTube. And like us on Facebook. We'll automatically come to your Facebook page if you do that. Well, this week is part 2 of our visit to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina that we went to a few weeks ago. And this is the best damn garage in town with Smokey Unick. As you can see, that's pretty much a stock car. It's still got the windows in it. Oh my God, that is a stock car from late 40s, early 50s. Still got the 3-speed shifter on the column. Herb Thomas. I've heard the name. That was even before my time. And this is David Pearson's car. Must have been before he hooked up with the Wood brothers. Looks like around a 62 Plymouth, or Dodge, sorry. They had the sidebars in there then. And that seat didn't look too bad. It looked better than some of the later years that I saw. And this here, they took apart, this is like Tony Stewart's car, and they have all the parts in the case there that comprise the car. Hubs, rotors, rear end, a lot of the bars that make up the car. So you get to see exactly what's in there. There's the fire extinguisher system. My son was working on the Super a few weeks ago and accidentally set it off. Said he was testing it, I guess. It worked. Some body panels, windows. You can see the seats have come a long way, the way they wrap around the shoulders and around the head. Now, it says Chevy engine. I thought they were running the small blocks. That exhaust ports on that don't seem to be a small block Chevy, so I'm not sure what they are. And that has a carburetor. They've gone to, I think they've gone to EFI this year. Electronic fuel injection. This here is an engine dyno. On our small block Supers, we had to have our engines dynoed up at Butler McMeister up in Hollowell, Maine. And we watched ours get dynoed. It's pretty cool. They rev it up 6,500 RPMs and it sounds like the thing's going to blow up. There's a Ford engine on display. There was a lot more of this Hall of Fame than just a bunch of cars on display, so you'll see that. And this is Jimmy Johnson's car hauler, transporter. The car goes up top, and then you walk in underneath through the galley in the middle. There's a little kitchen area, microwave. A work area. Here's where they had all the coil springs. Bunch of extra shocks, probably $1,500 each. It's a lot of work areas there. And then they had this, they had a room there where a couple of screens and computers and people would sit there.
So basically, this is where Jimmy and I conduct
Right
business
there.
in between practice sessions, pre-race, post-qualifying. We get together in here, we break down actually what goes on in the racetrack and try to formulate a plan as to what we're going to do for the race and try to get everything squared away. Now, since Jimmy just left to go get dressed to get ready to go qualifying, I'm going to kind of show you around. This is actually where Jimmy keeps his driver's suit, his fire suits, and his helmets and whatnot. You can see if you look at these drawers here, they're all packed full of Gatorade towels and hats. Here you can see a lot of his fire retardant underwear that he wears. Down here you can see a bunch of shoes that he has.
They have an underwear drawer. I don't even have that at home.
Timing and scoring, and this is what we use to track what goes on during the race and what goes on for qualifying. Now this is the temperature of water that we've got for the actual time of the race or qualifying. That's real time right there. You see it all the time. On this television, we typically watch practice. To the race weekend, sometimes we can pull out the weather center and even see the actual real-time radar. We've always got laptop computers here. What we do is we have an engineer that sits here in this area. We have an engineer that sits here. We have another engineer that sits here. And then typically, I sit over here on this corner right here with my computer. This is where we break things down.
So they have 3 engineers sitting there plus the crew chief.
More computers inside here. We've got a snap server so we can actually connect to all of our teammates so we know exactly what they're doing on the network. All of this is just basic storage. All of the storage we got for pertinent things. If you look at here, you can see we've got a lot of racing books. This is all the stuff, histories and things that are pertinent to what it is that we have when we need to racetrack this weekend. So now you see where we live. We're going to break everything down around the engineers to get prepared for race and hope you enjoy it.
Unbelievable. Come a long way since Wendell Scott with an open trailer changing his own tires. And this is the template. They'll lower it onto the top of the car. They said what one or a few teams did was cut out the middle of the car, slice it down the middle, and then put it back together so it was narrower. This year they're supposed to go to laser templates, so they won't have the mechanical ones. Said they're still trying to perfect it. This was iRacing qualifying for the racing that they had on the straightaway there, simulating Daytona. My sons went on there and they said that everybody was wrecking on the pace lap.
Onto that car ready for inspection. 43 cars before and after qualifying. All right, initial, post qualifying. You can see the time and the effort that it takes at this pace. Okay? And in a moment we're going to talk about why it takes so long to do this. Okay? All right. So, what happens is NASCAR officials will walk up to the car. They will slide this gauge underneath these corresponding letters to the corresponding color. Green for green area, B for blue, Y for yellow. And if it goes too far, the official knows that that car is too low. They've checked other areas and they know that they have a problem. Recently during a race, there was a problem with this area called the C-pillar. So NASCAR stopped the process, made the team go back to the race shop and fix this. The team actually cut this section out and made it raise up a little bit more. It was too low, so they had to work on this C-pillar. Sometimes a simple sledgehammer will fix the problem, and the car goes back out on the track. Sometimes there's a fine involved. If a car shows up so far out of specifications, they have a problem. The teams at the race shop know what they need to show up with. And for a race team of this caliber to show up with a car so far out of specifications, sometimes NASCAR will go to great lengths to find them, to make sure they understand not to bring a car back like that again. For example, in 1966, Junior Johnson showed up at Atlanta Motor Speedway in a Ford Galaxy driven by Fred Lorenzen, and it was so altered, it got nicknamed the Yellow Banana. The front end was raised up a little, the back end, the windshield was laid back, the rear section was raised up a little bit. The car was sponsored by Holly Farms Poultry, who happens to have this color yellow, so the whole car is yellow, thus the nickname the Yellow Banana. So that's why NASCAR said, don't bring that car back again. They want to make sure these cars look like the cars on the street. They want to keep the manufacturers happy, they want to keep the fans happy, and as a result, it's a level playing field for all teams. This happens to be a Ford that this template is coming down on. The car that used to sit here was an 18 car of Kyle Busch. We recently moved that out of the way. So this template doesn't quite fit, as you can see. But it gives you a good idea of the process. It's very tedious when you have 43 cars, as in this photo we demonstrate over here. The template raises up and down rather slowly. So over the last winter, NASCAR said we need to come up with a better system. They're currently looking into a laser system. Formula One uses a laser system. So NASCAR said we want to come up with a similar process. January of last year, there were still some glitches throughout the year. Whenever I watched a race, I saw this template device still being used. So hopefully over this winter, NASCAR will work out any kind of glitches that might be in that laser system. It checks checks about 40 points in under about a minute or so, much faster than moving all these cars up in a long line, and you saw how slow this template came down. So this is what they're currently using now. We'll see in January and February if they've had that laser working for us. Over on this wall over here, I find this very interesting. Items that have been confiscated throughout the decades. One of my favorites is the water cooler bag that says Gatorade. An official reached inside the car to move it out of the way while inspecting the car, and he couldn't because it's full of lead. Weight in a certain place on a car at a certain track is an advantage, so the official confiscated that lead-filled water cooler bag. Another one is the aluminum drive shaft. Weight is an enemy for a race team, a race car, so if you have an aluminum drive shaft, it's not approved. They use magnets to make sure that you are not using a lightweight aluminum drive shaft. So you're free to walk over there and test out that magnet on that aluminum drive shaft. You're also welcome to check out all the other items that have been confiscated throughout the years, throughout the decades. Okay. And don't forget, when you make it up to the fourth level, we have the original rule book, which is one sheet of paper. As you can see, the rule books have grown larger and have smaller print nowadays.
Here they explain the proper way to do a burnout. They have it all written down. 1 foot on the brake, 1 foot on the throttle, and stand on it. It says it's harder than it seems, so don't try this at home. Maybe we will. This is a pit stop competition. They have 2 cars set up, and you have like teams of 2 or 3 on each team. One's the jack man, one is the tire changer, where you got to take the lug nuts off, take the wheel, pull it back, then put it back on and put the lug nuts on. And the third person is the gas man. And they start them both at the same time and see who wins. They didn't have that many people there, so Let's see what happens here. The tire doesn't actually, it slides out maybe a foot or so, and then you push it back on. So you don't have to actually try to find the holes in the wheel to line up with the lug nuts. Which is good, because that's the hard part. Especially if you're doing a modified and you have the wide 5 rims. I've watched them try to do it, and they don't let them use power tools, so they have to use a 4-way wrench. Here we go. These guys realize it's not as easy as it looks on TV. Okay, this is a pit cart for Jimmy Johnson.
We stand here to honor the accomplishments,
This was a movie about the early NASCAR days.
NASCAR was built and carried forward.
Big Bill took us under his wing, and he was very good and very kind and loyal, and the rest of the family just followed suit.
She will have a legacy of just being a great role model for all women in racing.
It's Ronald Reagan.
Bill France Jr. brought this sport to Madison Avenue. His impact on the sport is incalculable.
We have many backgrounds, perspectives, and responsibilities, but we are common in our loyalty, dedication, and profession. The souls of those who came before us blazed the trail that has enriched our time in NASCAR. Some molded the shape of the sport in its infancy, while others established an order of balance to ensure its prosperity. They built the cathedrals where thousands flocked on a weekly basis to pay respects to their common thread, their pastime, their love, NASCAR. They exposed the sport to the masses with a marketing campaign matched by none, and a desire to see the sport they love grow to become the national powerhouse it is today. They built the cars, the engines that powered
Holman from Holman Moody.
championships. Those that worked behind the scenes shaped the sport through their vision and leadership. They were just as important to the growth and success of NASCAR as those who drove the cars.
Smokey
and provided
Yunick.
the thrills that generations of fans enjoy.
What they'll never be able to take away from Lee Petty is the fact that he won the very first.
Richard Petty's dad, Lee Petty.
The first Petty family.
There's the
member
finish of the
that
first
was
500.
successfully participating.
It makes me feel good that played a big part in the decision to reverse the finish of the race. It was just another picture.
He approached it from a little higher plane than most of the drivers there, trying to analyze how everything was going to work.
Ham was always kind of the kid that you wanted to pull for. And after a while, he got so dominant, you didn't want to pull for him all that much anymore.
He was one of the early
Very good.
dominant drivers,
If you're
Tim
up,
Flock.
You go end up and get to where it's the end of it.
I always
And, of course, Fireball.
thought that Fireball was the first superstar our sport had.
Wendell Scott. Herb Thomas. One of the early ones. Along with Joe Weatherly.
Those who made NASCAR what it
62
is today
Pontiac.
have stories rich with accomplishment. That
Baker.
Motivates us to reach for the greatness they achieve and to do so with the same dignity, the same class.
All right, one of the most exciting races.
There's our hero, Richie Evans.
The finish with Richie and Jeff crashing and banging on the last lap.
Davey Allison won the first race
We must
at New
remind
Hampshire
ourselves
Speedway.
of the challenges we meet each day, striving to grow the
Ricky
legacy
Hendrick's
and honor
son,
the family that NASCAR has lost.
Adam
Records
Petty,
preserve their accomplishments,
Richard's
but it is their spirit,
grandson.
their dedication, that is the true essence of NASCAR.
There's three legends.
NASCAR
Dale
has
Sr.
lost its greatest driver ever. And I personally have lost a great friend.
NASCAR is a celebration of the lives of those who came before us, and a celebration of those yet to come. Their accomplishments inspire us to live this moment as they live their lives, to perpetuate the honor of our sport, our NASCAR, not for the glory, but for the good of all.
That was a nice movie. I believe this is the end of the first Daytona 500 that Lee Petty won in the 42. And they came up on a lap car and came across the finish line three abreast. There's a finish. They didn't have the cameras they do today, so they declared someone, I forget who they declared the winner, and then they had to reverse it. So Lee got the victory after the other driver got the kissed the trophy queen. That's not fair, is it? Yeah, they had some of the best finishes in NASCAR, so we watched some of those. Petty and Pearson. An official dead heat. It's Timmy Richmond in the 25 and Jeff Bodine in the 5. Both racing for Hendricks. Tim Richmond. If he had lived longer, I think he would have been a legend. In my mind, he was anyway. He was my favorite driver of all time. He actually drove an Indy car too. Oh, this was interesting. This is from 1979, the two cars, Donnie Allison and Cale Yarborough, when they smashed into each other and both wrecked, and Richard Petty ended up winning the race.
away here from the start.
That particular one, all the talk in the garage area was about that national television was going to cover the race. Bill Jr. had told everybody, be on your P's and Q's today. The whole East Coast had been snowed in by a severe storm that tripled or doubled at least what they would have expected.
There was a snowstorm in the Northeast, so everybody was watching the race. That's when they had the slingshotting. You didn't want to be leading, but Donnie Allison's not going to let him by.
It reached a point between the two drivers as they were going out that backstretch going on that hammer that both of their mindset was real clear. If I can't win this race, you ain't.
If I can't win it, you ain't going to win it. And there's Richard Petty.
Overflowing, they're angry, they know they have lost, and what a bitter defeat.
You were needed to be on that final lap to get by.
I like to say to myself, I'm not going to see underneath down the backstretch.
As I pulled out to go around on it, he just kept easing and walking.
He ran to me, and when it did, it knocked me a little sideways. I lifted.
My left side tire got in that wet sand and hood. It just swung right back to the race.
I can't believe this is happening. We ended up being two for the one round. Whereas the weekend itself, very long. It was over the parking lot. Lobby Howard and Donnie, and we went right back to the garage here. Get a ride to my head. That Kale saying when I ran toward me, he lunged at me and hit me in the face with his helmet. With that, Kale Yarborough went to beating on my fist with his nose. My story was taken to us.
I figured it was going to be a double team.
I ran over and grabbed Kale by the arm and I spun him around. I said, I got a helmet, I'm going back with a helmet.
So we went at it. Bobby, Donnie.
I don't know what the big deal is about this. I mean, we see this almost every week at Lee Star.
That one incident right there gave NASCAR more attention that one day than we had in 10 years.
Just as we start in the third corner, there's just two cars out there. And then all of a sudden you realize who we are. I said, that's number one and number two. That means I'm number three right now. So we were able to wind up winning the race because somebody else crashed in.
So this is the front of the two cars. I guess they saved it. It's pretty cool. There's a Yarborough car all bent up. Looks like a pro stock at the end of the year. Well, that's it. We could have stayed there another hour, but we had to catch a plane to come back home. Well, next week, this Sunday, we're taking a ride up to the Northeast Motorsports Expo up in Maine. And thanks to Steve Perry from Mainly Motorsports for inviting us up, giving us a ticket. And we'll be interviewing Steve about his show, Mainly Motorsports Racing TV show, that's on YouTube every week. And his daughter has a racing career. She was racing a Legends car, and I guess she's going to the Northeast Mini Stock Tour. We'll find out, and we'll be interviewing some of the vendors up there as to the new products they got coming out this year, and we'll be looking at some of the cars on display. So we'll have quite a bit to show you the next few weeks. Also, February 7th and 8th is in Marlborough, Mass. is Bobby Seymour's Race Depot show, and we'll be covering that also. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.